Then on Sports Central, we go over our next team prediction of this offseason, and it's going to be over the LSU Tigers, a team that came back to life in the 2022 season as this team went 10-4 overall. They won the SEC West and returned to contention once again. An outstanding season for LSU, and this team is already considered a potential contender for 2023, and rightfully so. This team is returning a lot of their key players, and things are looking great for LSU as we look forward to 2023. We'll be talking about this team here today, analyzing this team and predicting their schedule game by game in this video. Let's get started with a quick recap of 2022. This team lost to Florida State in the first game of the season. Obviously, if you look at that Florida State LSU game back in week 1, both teams didn't have very high expectations heading into the season. And so considering now that matchup in week 1 actually was between, you could say, 2 of the top 15 teams in the country, it turned out to be a huge matchup in week 1, and Florida State got the win in the end, but a great matchup there. The next week they beat Southern, then they beat Mississippi State to start off the conference slate. They beat New Mexico and also beat Auburn on the road. So, they start out the season 4-1 despite the disappointing loss to Florida State, and this team definitely showed their potential. Then they played Tennessee, which that game didn't turn out so well. They lost to Tennessee 40-13, but Tennessee at that point in the season was the best team in the country. They were hot at that point. In October, Tennessee definitely won October. They were just a top-tier team throughout that entire month. Of course, their win against Alabama was the most notable, and they also, of course, the huge one over LSU is obviously a huge one as well. But at least for LSU, they came back the next week, beat Florida on the road, beat Ole Miss 45-20. Ole Miss was a solid team last season, and LSU made that look easy. Then they beat Alabama 32-31 in overtime, a huge win against their big rival there, and that eventually set up their chance to play in the SEC championship. They beat Arkansas on the road in a low-scoring game, 13-10, beat UAB 41-10, and then lost to Texas A&M by 15 to finish out the regular season. So disappointing loss to finish out the regular season, but still an outstanding season. And then the SEC championship didn't really stand a chance against Georgia. Georgia was able to put up 50 points, and LSU just really couldn't keep up. They did still score 30 on a brutal Georgia defense, but in the end, it was just Georgia's season, and they eventually won the national championship. But in the Cheez-It Bowl, this team took on Purdue, won the game 63-7. What a way to finish out the season there against a solid Purdue team. Of course, they didn't have Aiden O'Connell in that matchup, but still a really just a dominant performance to finish out the season and set themselves up for what could be an even better 2023 season. And let's talk about that now. So your roster preview, Jaden Daniels is coming back, the starting quarterback of this team, Arizona State transfer. And thing is about Jaden Daniels, you look at his first season at Arizona State, he really showed tremendous upside and then really didn't play as well the next couple of seasons. And now in his 4th season of college ball, this time at LSU, you could say this was, his stats were almost identical to 2019 when he had a great season with ASU. Both 2019 and 2022, he put up 2,900 yards, put up 17 touchdowns, and he only threw 3 picks in the 2022 season, which is outstanding. So he had a great stat line. The only difference between 2019 and 2022 was he was much more accurate in 2022, having a 69% completion rate versus a 61 back in 2019. Of course, he can rush the ball too, and he ran nearly 900 yards and 12 touchdowns in 2022. This was his best season of college ball so far, and he shows, once again, tremendous upside as we look forward to 2023. So we'll see if he can take that next step in 2023. Backfield looks great. Josh Williams coming back. Noah Cain coming back. So the backfield is not concerning one bit. You also consider, Jaden Daniels was the top rusher on this team by a good 200 yards in the 2022 season. So backfield looks great. The receiving core also looks great. Malik Neighbors coming back, the top in receiving. Kayshon Boutte is not coming back, the second wideout. But at least you got your top tight end, Mason Taylor, coming back. You also lose Jere Jenkins. So you lose a couple in the receiving core, but at least there's some good depth. So I'm really not too concerned. You lose one on the offensive line. Defensively, you do lose a few of your key players, 2 on the D-line, 3 linebackers, and 4 in the secondary. So that is something to keep in mind, is defensively this team will need to rebuild a bit. But offensively, this team is looking like they can take the next step in 2023 and be even better. And so it brings up the question, is a potential return to the college football playoff within reason for 2023? And I very much think so. This is a team that has got tremendous talent. You think back to only 3 going on 4 years ago when this team won the national title in the 2019 season. One of the best college football teams I've ever seen, for sure. And you think to how this team fell off a bit, but this team is back. They're alive as we look forward to 2023. The talent on this team, the potential is there for this team to definitely be dangerous in 2023. I mean, yeah, the Tigers are a dangerous team and one to keep an eye on as we look forward to 2023. And that said, let's look at your transfer portal and recruiting now. Going into 2023, Walker Howard, quarterback, is off to Ole Miss. Aaron Anderson, receivers, coming in from Alabama. Jack Beck, you do lose him. Tight end to TCU. Marcus Dummerville is off to Maryland, offensive tackle. You bring in a couple on the D-line here. Paris Shand is coming in from Arizona. Jordan Jefferson from West Virginia. Ovio Gofos coming in, edge rusher from Texas. And then Braden Swinson is coming in, edge rusher from Oregon. Otherwise, Jalen Lee is coming in, defensive lineman from Florida, edge rusher. Desmond Little's in the transfer portal. Omar Spates is coming in, linebacker from Oregon State. You do lose DeMario Tolan off to Auburn. Denver Harris is coming in from Texas A&M. Deuce Chestnut, J.K. Johnson, and Zy Alexander also coming in. So you're adding a lot of depth to the secondary here, and this team is adding a lot of defensive players from the transfer portal, which is significant because of the players that they are losing. So at least that is a good sign, is that this team is able to bring in some great talent from the transfer portal defensively, especially definitely where they need it. Recruiting-wise, this team is 6th in the country, 3rd in the SEC. They got 2 5-stars and 16 4-stars coming in. I mean, things are looking really good for this team recruiting-wise heading into 2023. And so that said, on the future forecast meter, I got this team at a 9 out of 10. Future's bright for this team. They are back once again, and this team should be a national contender for several years to come, as it appears as of right now. And that said, let's look at your schedule now going into 2023. So you got Florida State once again in week 1, and this is going to be a huge matchup. So you got 2 teams here that are on the rise and very much expected to be contenders in the 2023 season. I mean, last season, both teams didn't have very high expectations. Heading into 2022, it couldn't be more different as we look forward to 2023. Both teams are expected to be big contenders. That's a huge matchup. Then you got Grambling State in week 2 at home. Mississippi State on the road to start out the conference slate. Arkansas at home after that. Ole Miss on the road to finish out September. And then in October, you got Missouri on the road, Auburn at home, Army at home, and then Alabama after a bye week on the road. That's going to be a huge one. More than likely will determine the winner of the SEC West once again. Then you got Florida at home, Georgia State at home, and then Texas A&M at home to finish out the regular season. So that said, looking at your first 4 games here, so Florida State, a huge game. I'm going to be taking LSU to win that matchup right now. This is going to be one that is going to be, that's probably the biggest matchup of week 1. I mean, once again, you got 2 big contenders going head-to-head there in Orlando. And so I'm going to take LSU. I do think Florida State, Jordan Travis, that's going to be a contender. I mean, they're going to be a contender in the ACC for sure, maybe even nationally. But LSU, I do like the Tigers a bit more. I'm going to take them to win that matchup right now. Grambling State, easy win. Mississippi State on the road, you do beat them. It is a road conference game, so it could be close. But I do think you win that one. And then Arkansas, I think it's going to be a close matchup against Arkansas, but I do think LSU wins that one with it being at home. So you're 4-0 heading into your next 4 games. Ole Miss, I'm going to say that's a close one as well, but you do beat them. And then your next 3 games should be fairly easy here. You got Missouri on the road, should take care of them despite it being a road conference game. And then Auburn, of course, they just got Peyton Thorne going in. Peyton Thorne just announced that the other day. And so Auburn could be a decent team, but you got them at home. I do think you beat them by 2 or 3 touchdowns. And then Army, you take care of them. So you're 8-0 heading into November. Honestly, if you can beat Florida State in week 1, I mean, Ole Miss is the only other game that I see being a potential trap game. So, I mean, this team, if you can beat Florida State, 8-0 is very much within reason. And so that Alabama matchup to start November is going to be huge. I mean, you got 2 teams that should be pretty hot heading into that matchup. And so Alabama on the road, I am going to favor the Crimson Tide there. It's a road game. I mean, Alabama is, I do have a couple of questions about them But I mean, I've got no doubt Nick Saban, it's a Nick Saban coach team. They should once again be a big national contender as they always are in 2023. I mean, the quarterback situation is the main question mark. Everywhere else is looking really good for the Crimson Tide, and I think they have things figured out by November. And so the Crimson Tide do win that one. Then you got Florida at home. I do think you beat them in a close one. Georgia State, easy win. And then Texas A&M to finish out the regular season. Texas A&M was just such a huge disappointment in 2022. I think they're better in 2023, but LSU is just the better team. I'm more confident in the Tigers to win that one. It's also nice that you have your last 3 games at home to finish out the regular season. And so that said, I got 11-1 for the LSU Tigers as we look forward to 2023. This team returns to national contention in 2023. The talent's there, the potential's there. Brian Kelly, everything's looking great for LSU as we look forward to 2023. And that said, looking at your range now, this is something we have introduced this off season. This is where we can see the ceiling and the floor for each team. And for LSU, ceiling's 12-0 for sure. This team has got tremendous potential to go 12-0. I mean, it is a tougher schedule. Florida State is one of your non-conference games, is just a massive game in week 1. Alabama on the road. You do play Ole Miss on the road, which could be a potential trap game. Mississippi State on the road could be a tough one as well. I mean, don't forget about Florida or Texas A&M, but ceiling's definitely 12-0. I've got this team at 11-1. 10-2 is within reason as well. I think 9-3 is unlikely, but that is the floor for this team. I consider putting the floor at 8-4, but I'm pretty confident that this team is going to be a solid team. Jaden Daniels, everything's looking great. I mean, 3 losses. If your most likely 3 losses are probably Florida State, I'd say Ole Miss, and then Alabama, of course. And so I think 9-3 that's probably your floor. I mean, in comparison to where this team was, say, in 2020, I mean, yeah, things are looking up as we look forward to 2023. So ceiling's 12-0, floor's 9-3. I've got this team at 11-1. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below on LSU, and I appreciate you guys all watching as always. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. I'll catch you on the next one.